Name, please.
My name is Lela Sims.
And were you born in Cushing?
Yes, I was, about 10 miles in the Oak Grove district.
Okay. So you grew up there.
Yes, sir.
And tell me about when you decided to come to Tulsa to work in the bomber plant.
I came to work in the plant because I needed to make my own living. And one of my sisters worked there, and later another sister and I worked there.
What year was that?
I believe it was about 1940, close to there.
Okay. Do you recall what type of aircraft you were working on when you finally got out on the line?
I suppose it was the B-24?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me what you recall about your training and about working there in the plant.
Well, we trained for a good while. I don't recall how many months or it was, and then we got transferred to the plant. And I used the bucking bar and the machine that you put the rivets in with.
Did you train at the National Guard Armory?
Yes, sir.
On 15th Street at the
Yes,
fairgrounds?
that's right.
Okay.
15.
Why don't you tell me that instead of me saying it? You tell me. Where did you train?
At the National Guard Armory on 15th Street.
Okay. How long was your training?
I was thinking it was about a year, but I could be mistaken.
Okay. So you said your sister worked there.
My two sisters.
Two sisters?
I have a sister 15 years older than myself, and she talked to us about going to work there also. So we was in a boarding house, and we worked there.
Do you remember where your boarding house was?
Yes, well, I don't remember the address, but it was on South Denver.
Okay. So did you get to work with your sisters, or were they in some other part of the plant?
I believe that they was in another part of the plant, I believe.
So what did you spend most of your time doing when you were working in the plant?
Well, I was a riveter.
You were doing both bucking and riveting?
Yes.
Well, we discussed earlier that your stature allowed you to get into parts of the airplanes that others might not have been able to, and you told me an interesting story about people dropping their tools. Tell me about that.
Yes, if they dropped a bolt or a tool down in there, I would hear the four-wheeler coming, and I'd put my bar down and jump on there and go get the bolt out. They didn't want the pilots to go crazy.
That would rattle around a bit, wouldn't it? So how long did you work at the bomber plant?
I believe I was there about 4 years, but I can't remember altogether.
Okay. Did you work till war's end, or?
No. Do you want me to tell you the story of how I got away from there?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. I have a brother that had twin daughters that were children, young, and I went to Fort Hood, Texas to help my sister-in-law take them down to see my brother. And my husband was his sergeant. And I got acquainted with him, and some months later we were married.
I see.
So they let me go because I was married to a soldier.
So had you ever had any contact with aircraft at all before you went to work in the Douglas plant? When you were in Cushing, did you hang around the airport, or did you see airplanes much?
Well, I only saw the ones that were there, the small ones, and not really.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cushing, of course, is known for oil. And,
Exactly.
yeah. And so you saw a lot of that work going on during
Yes.
the time you were growing up, I'm
Yes.
sure. So you worked on the B-24 bomber. That was probably the one that took the longest for them to build through the whole program.
Isn't that the one that carried supplies?
They had a supply version of the B-24, yes, called a C-87, and we did build some of those here. But it was also a bomber.
Yes.
So do you remember any stories that were funny stories or interesting stories that you'd like to tell us about working there?
Not really. I just know we all had a good time.
Did you work the day shift or the night
Day
shift?
shift, yes, the day shift.
So when was that? Was that like 8 to 5 or 9
I
to
believe so.
9 to, okay.
Had to catch a bus and transfer, I think, from where I lived. 2 or 3 buses maybe to get there.
Was it a Douglas bus or was it a city bus?
It was a city bus.
Okay. Did you see any famous people when you were working there?
Oh, well, some generals and the like.
Remember any of the names?
Not right off. I started to say General MacArthur may have been there, but
Not sure about that?
not sure though.
Well, they say that we have photographs of Franklin Roosevelt visiting there in 1940, I believe it was 43. Did you see Franklin
I
Roosevelt?
may have, but you know, I don't hold up one person above another, so I was taught that we're all the same, so, you know, I mean, you have great respect, don't get me wrong, but he was the only president, he was in for 16 years, was he? He was the only president I remembered as a child.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Matter of fact, it was because of him that they started the term limits because of the effect that it had on the man.
Mm-hmm. Well, his wife helped.
Yeah.
I remember wasn't it Dewey that ran against him once?
I think so.
See, I can remember that.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Oh, yes. I was in the 8th grade, and the principal brought his radio to school because he had heard something about it, and they declared the war. And here we were, these little kids sitting there, and we were scared. I don't know why he did that, but I guess we needed to know.
Yeah.
And also, if I may say, I had 3 brothers in the service at the time, and that was another thing that interested me in doing something for the war effort.
So there were 6 kids in your family?
No, there's 8.
8?
I'm the youngest, and 4 of us are still living.
Oh my. So you had how many sisters? 3
2.
sisters?
I had one that was 15 years older and one 2 years older, and she
Okay.
lives in Boulder City, Nevada. And they wanted her to help work on a plane from World War II.
Very good.
And I was there at the time, but they never did call us, so we didn't get a chance to help on it.
So did you have a career other than your work at the bomber plant after the war? Did you work outside the home, or did you just work inside
I
the
worked
home?
in several factories.
What were you doing then?
Well, I worked in a place that made storage batteries and made batteries for hearing aids in Memphis. My son was born in Memphis. When my husband was out of the service, it's kind of like it is now. There wasn't that many jobs, you know, war was over. And so we lived in several different states. And so that's the way it was.
When did you return to Oklahoma?
My father died in 1951, I believe it was. And my mother was one of these people that, you know, he did for her. I mean, she didn't know how to do anything. So we moved in with her for a while. And then my husband was a diesel engineer, and he worked at the light plant over there in Cushing for about 35 or 40 years.
So, what was it like growing up in Cushing, Oklahoma?
We lived on a farm, and